Well, so much for a self-imposed rule that the next gramophone I bought would be one of a really good make, so a nice HMV or something. I instead bought this thing because it was cheap, and it is somewhat interesting. It is a Harmonie. Although it ended up being interesting in a way that I didn't really want it to be. But anyway, it looks reasonably nice. Has inlay, quite nice inlay in my view. So yep, rather pretty. You've got record storage either side, that's nice. It's just a sort of standard Swiss thing. Not sure if that's the right sound box for it, who knows with these things. Would have just been a locally made gramophone of a brand I can't find anything on. Anyway, we get to the grill and looks like it's sort of trying to be Brunswick. I don't know, I have to look at the Brunswick. Anyway, pull that out. It doesn't really fit because someone put fabric in. And you may notice a glaring thing if the camera focuses. Well, even if it doesn't. It is pretty obvious that where there really should be a horn, there is nothing. I don't know why this thing's refusing to focus. Go on. There we go. Yeah. Also, for some reason, there's a cassette in here. A very, very dusty looking cassette that's been covered in whiteout on one side. Who knows? Maybe we'll find out what that is. Anyway, there is just a void where the horn is supposed to be. There's the motor. Interestingly, it has got this wooden thing that slides back and forth. You can see it there. And that block there, it slides back and forth. And it's a volume control. Let's see if I can... You can see that moves, and it seals that hole from the tone arm. Anyway, yeah, that is really weird. At first, when I pulled the grill off and saw this, I thought, oh, someone's modified it or pulled it apart in some attempt to turn it into a cabinet and then change their mind. But I don't really see any sort of fixing points. Now, it could be that someone did mess around with it, but it almost looks like this is how it was made. So, yeah, this is real first-class junk. Although, again, one note about it being modified is that there's a hole drilled here, right under where the crank is now, which suggests that maybe the motor was changed. Although, if I lift I'm not going to lift the turntable because I've wound it up, but there's no extra holes, so it looks like it's the original motor probably. And this thing, I suppose this thing is missing, but that could have just gotten broken or something, or fallen out. Yeah, the thing that controls the volume. So it might have a volume control of the mediocre type. The tone arm, again, it's all just Swiss, but it's very nice. It's in good condition too, but it looks quite nice and it moves nicely, which again is probably more condition than anything else, but it looks like a reason. It does have this angle, so tracking is a bit better than other ones because it's got the angle as opposed to just being a straight one. I don't know if there's different names. It's still a gooseneck one, but it's just like that. Anyway, so some money did go into this. It's just only the things you could see. So it really is a scam, really. They put all the money into the inlay of the cabinet and getting you a reasonably nice looking tone arm, and then just completely didn't bother with a horn. Now, yeah, again, I don't want to defame this long-defunct company if it turns out that someone just ripped the horn out, but I don't know. That's beginning to look less and less likely, and the hole from the motor, which maybe someone did change the motor at some point, that does happen a lot, and they just happen to match up the holes. But it's also a possibility that they just misdrilled it, and instead of getting a new timber, moved it up a bit and thought no one will notice, which maybe sounds unbelievable, but we've got some kitchen cabinets, second-hand of course, second-hand kitchen. It was originally expensive, whoever bought it first, and one of the cupboard doors, they drilled the hole for the handle in the wrong spot and just filled it in, even though they're quite expensive cabinetry when it was new. So it does get done. So it is possible that they just screwed up, and rather than replacing that whole panel of veneer and everything, just plugged it up and said, "She'll be right, mate." Anyway, Let me give it a listen and see how this hornless machine performs. I've got to say though, it does mean that you have plenty of space if you needed to... Oh, now my torch works properly. You've got all this space everywhere, a bit of a waste honestly, it's a shame they didn't put some more cupboard in it. But yeah, you've got space, if you need to hide stuff, you can fill this space with things, or use it as other storage, as well as having your easily accessible record storage. But let's give this thing a listen. Just... Oh, and you know what the funniest thing is? I have a running thing with lid stays not working. That was my own fault for not opening it properly. Da-dup, 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 da-dup. Oh, the irony. The one that it finally works perfectly on is probably the worst gramophone performance-wise I have. This is probably going to sound... Well, actually, who knows? It might still sound okay, but it's got the acoustic design of a very cheap or early portable. I don't know, we'll find out. It's all really relying on the sound box and how a box sounds. A literal box. But yeah, it's just, of course, this is the one the lid stay works on. But listen, I haven't rebuilt the sound box. This is not really a fair test or anything. Okay, that sounds terrible, and I hope it's not ruining the record. So the sound box needs rebuilding. You know what? I might have one that fits. Well, sadly, my Rexonol's sound box, this is a little too large to fit in that tone arm, so unfortunately no fair test for this thing. But I don't know, I have a feeling probably won't be too great. I do need to buy more gasket materials. This is going to be sitting around for a while. Another project, just what I needed. Oh, one more thing I didn't note. As the obligatory damage thanks to tone arm not being secured, which is probably going to be everything that I buy, which happens a lot. I know how this thing was transported by the other people, not by me, but by the previous one, and it was not secured or anything, so that could be when that happened, although that could have happened a long time ago too. Anyway, again, I didn't pay much for this, and I'm glad I didn't, because it's not very much machine. It is more decorative item, even when it was new. But it is an interesting piece. An interesting piece indeed. And a real example of how this sort of thing of dressing up low quality stuff has been going on for a long time. It's not just something from the later 20th century where they put the LEDs and flashy lights and dials and things on really cheap audio systems. Well, they were doing it in the 20s, putting nice inlay and flashy looking nicely tracking tone arms on a literal box. And actually, it's very hollow too. So maybe I should pay attention, but no, I'm glad I bought it anyway, because it's cheap. And it's a perfect storage box. And who knows, maybe it'll be like the shoebox theatre, in that it turns out actually the box has great acoustics. Now I'm trying to sell like the Cheney. And of course the note is, who knows, maybe this is modified and I just don't notice. That is there's one possibility, because who knows? Well, there you go. A purchase I probably shouldn't have made, but I'm still glad I did, because it is quite funny and pretty. So thanks for watching. It also came with 2 needle tins, so I can add them to my little unintentional collection that came with my gramophones.